Tracking the tropics as Hurricane Jerry is likely this week. Meanwhile, eyes on the Caribbean and the potential for a big coastal storm up the East Coast. Welcome in, folks. Happy Monday. Happy start to the new week. And a lot going on in the forecast. We've got Jerry likely to form this week into the tropical Atlantic. And I would imagine the final tropical system in the main development region, at least. And then also want to watch the Caribbean around the middle of the month. And on top of that, as early as this week, we've got a coastal storm that could be riding up the eastern seaboard, almost a hybrid tropical / nor'easter system that we're going to need to keep a very close eye on. It could bring pretty big impacts to a lot of folks up and down the East Coast, depending on the track and intensity, which obviously we'll be trying to dive on into in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. It'll keep you in the loop here on everything new that we've got going on in the weather model world and all the data and my opinion on that data as we comb on over it. Alrighty, with that said, let's just get right on into things here and start talking weather. I've got the Canadian model looping next to me right now, and you can see all sorts of storm systems and low pressures out here trying to get going. We've got Jerry that rides up into the Atlantic. We've got a big coastal storm, and then you've got some Caribbean energy right after that that tries to fly on up as well. So I think it's going to be a busy next 10 days or so here in the world of weather, and it is changing seasons, and normally that's when things get crazy, is whenever the warm air and the cold air start clashing, and I think that's exactly what we're going to start to see here over the coming days. Let's give you a quick look at satellite, though, just across the Atlantic in general. And again, try to kind of familiarize yourself with what we're looking at. So I'll immediately circle, this is an invest, an area of investigation down here at the bottom right of your screen. That's what's likely to become Jerry over the next 7 days as it moves up towards the islands. We'll be talking about how close it could get to the islands here in a moment. And then we've kind of got this stalled out frontal boundary over the Atlantic, and you can see pockets of thunderstorm activity along that boundary. And that could become kind of crucial, especially this pocket near the Bahamas. That could get scooped up by some upper level energy and potentially turn into a big East Coast storm, at least for October standards. And then you've got down here into Central America, another area of thunderstorm activity that we need to keep an eye on. And that general area, normally a region that gets highlighted this time of year anyway for tropical development. Now, is there anything immediately inhibiting all this? Well, we do have some dry air, especially right in front of Jerry, or what will eventually become Jerry. And that's Jerry with a J, by the way, not G. I know some people spell it differently. This is the male Jerry, Jerry with a J. So, again, we've got some dry air there. But other than that, most of the other dry air is parked to the north of this boundary, and that's why it's a boundary. It's a boundary between drier, more stable air and more humid, tropical, unstable air to the south, where we have the thunderstorm activity ongoing. And then really not a lot of dry air here into the Western Caribbean. So I've been talking about it all summer. It's a region we very closely need to watch because the waters are still very warm out there. You put all that together, though, and right now the National Hurricane Center is still only watching this area of investigation, giving it a 70% chance of developing over the next 7 days, and they don't have anything else tagged right now. That could change, though, here a little bit later on down the road. So first, though, let's dive into this area in red. Obviously, that's the most likely to develop, so let's give you the latest on this invest that may eventually become a tropical system this week. Here's that area of investigation, and you can see, I mean, it's a healthy little confined area of convection out here, and you can obviously also see some of that cyclonic rotation to it. Clouds on the north moving a little bit more to the west, clouds on the south trying to move a little bit more to the east, and again, you can just see that general spin with things. So a pretty healthy looking system right now, all things considered. If we stop the animation, though, and we'll even zoom out a bit and kind of see if there's anything that may hinder this storm. And I think the biggest one right now is dry air. You can see we've got this dry air to the north. It's not hard to find on the map. It's pretty easy to see there. I'll circle it here again in this pinkish color, so it'll show up a little bit better. But the system itself, I mean, it's pretty, confined. I think it's got a pretty good marsupial pouch, as we say, or it's basically, again, just blocking off the surrounding environment and trying to create its own. I think it's doing a pretty good job of that right now. But again, some dry air maybe trying to intrude a little bit. That could help us out here in the near term and keep it from developing maybe super quickly. Other than dry air, what about shear? Well, there is some shear to the north, but again, moving into an environment that's pretty conducive wind shear wise. So I don't think that's going to be very much of an inhibiting factor, for development. And then another thing we'll look at are sea surface temperatures. Is it warm enough? Yeah, plenty warm enough out here. We've got 28 28 to 29 degrees Celsius waters. You only need 26.5 to get a tropical system to form, so that's not a problem. In terms of ocean heat content, it's teetering on some deeper warm water. It's a lot deeper to the south here, but eventually it'll get into a pocket of deeper warm water, especially once it gets out towards the islands later this week. So you put all that together, and, you start to think, okay, well, this thing's probably got a pretty good shot of getting somewhere. How about any other stuff? Do we have microwave imagery on this one? Doesn't look like it. Let's see if we have any AMSU data. I imagine probably not. No, it doesn't look like we have any of that. That would just tell us if it's warm core anyway, which I guarantee you it's well down in the tropics. It's going to have a warm core. How about scatterometer? It looks like we've got some scatterometer passes nearby. Not enough that it's overly exciting, but we'll, put all the winds on top. Actually, we'll leave those off. It just adds a little bit too much. We'll throw lightning on those so you can see where the lightning is. Yeah, you can definitely see, again, the cyclonic flows showing up here in the models or in the observations here, or remote sensing with our satellite imagery. Definitely, yeah, seeing some cyclonic spin here. Probably not quite tight enough for the NHC to call it a named storm, but like I said, I think it's getting pretty close here. So it would not shock me at all to get that next name, Jerry, on the list. Really as soon as potentially the next couple of days. If not, then at least by the end of this week, I think going to become plenty conducive enough to get a named storm. And again, I'll just show it to you on satellite one more time. Yeah, that's the system. So that's what it looks like. Let's go ahead and time it out in the models now, see what they're saying, see if they've got a pretty good hold on this thing, and try to answer where in the world it's going to end up. Well, here's the American model run from this morning, and the GFS was a little more aggressive with this thing in the short term, now backing off a little bit. Again, maybe due to that dry air, but I still think the system looks pretty good. All right, here we go. Either way, develops this into a tropical storm by the middle of this week, gets it to hurricane status by the end of the week, and notice north of the island. So here are the Antilles, here's Puerto Rico. The system looks north on this run of the GFS, which is good, and then just curves out to sea, gets kind of close to Bermuda, but not really close enough to cause any huge impacts. And after that, it's nothing more. It's a GFS model. Worth something, right? Sometimes, maybe not. How about the European model? What does it show? Well, again, much slower with development on this, keeps it weak, runs into the dry air, and then finally gets a tropical storm around, again, the middle of the week, but not quite as strong as the GFS. Also north of the islands on this run, and then pulls north and just stays kind of weak and never really becomes much of anything on the latest European. Still gets the name Jerry, but it would be more of a tropical storm, not so much a hurricane, and staying north of the island. So obviously that's good news. We'll take that and we'll run with it, all the time. What about the ensembles? Because operational runs are great. Are the ensembles backing things up? Well, here are some of the AI ensembles, and I show it to you because they actually did not too bad with Imelda and Umberto, so give them a shot, right? Most of the members keep it away from the islands. Now, some of the stronger members are actually a little bit closer, so that could be something to monitor maybe in the near term if the system organizes quicker, becomes stronger quicker. Maybe it gets a little close, but again, only one ensemble member kind of bringing it through the islands out of, it looks about like 20 or so members. So, pretty good odds that means it won't directly hit. The European ensembles also pretty confident that this will not be a direct hit. In fact, maybe one out of about 50 or so, or 40, hit the islands, but most of them curve it out to sea. And you've got some stronger members in here, especially once it gets north of the islands between Bermuda and there. You've got plenty of hurricane members mixed in there. So even if the operational run has a weaker solution, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see this thing make a run at hurricane status before all is said and done. So that's what's likely to become Jerry. Not overly worried about it for the lower 48. Not all that worried even for the islands, but we're on a higher alert threshold there for you folks just because it's closer and things could easily change and shift a little bit one way that maybe it could become a bigger deal. So don't let your guard down yet, but promising look on the data this morning and afternoon. All right, that's that. Let's switch things back over a little bit further west. I told you we need to watch the Caribbean. I'll show you why, and then we'll talk about this coastal storm that could try to ride on up the East Coast. All right, so I'll start with this. No real major model show anything forming in the Caribbean, at least over the next 7 days or so. So that's good news. We'll take it. But it's an area we always need to watch no matter what this time of year. It's a graphic, it looks like, from Florida Public Radio. So, kudos to them for making it. I'm going to use it here just to give you an idea. Notice where we get a lot of formation in the month of October. It's down here into the Western Caribbean. And it's no secret if something forms there, it's basically guaranteed to hit land wherever it goes, whether that be up into Florida or into the Gulf or, again, a little bit more out to sea. There's Cuba, there's the Yucatan, there's Florida. There's plenty of things, unfortunately, in the way land-wise with people living on it. So it's an area you need to watch no matter what. And this year's no different. We have record warm ocean temperatures out here. I forgot to pull the map up, but trust me, it's there. I mean, we've got bathtub water and very deep bathtub water in this area. So it's something to watch, even if the models don't show anything right now. Another reason to watch it is the MJO is going to hit a phase, again, right around the middle of the month. That's going to bring rising motion and spin over this part of the Atlantic. You can see here, already seeing some of that right now and this week over the Gulf and portions of the Caribbean, but really gets a bump up here right around the middle of the month, the 10th through the 20th, the 11th through the 15th to be more specific. You see a lot of green here indicating rising motion. We've got some vorticity beginning to increase in that region as well. And then I think hopefully by the end of the month, we can just shut the tropics off altogether and we'll start talking about winter storms and coastal storms and all this other much more winter-like systems, hopefully by the end of October, especially obviously by November. Yeah, that's a reason to watch it. And I'll even show you some model data here. This is the Euro ensemble. So remember, this shows where low pressure could try to develop. You see by this week, Thursday and Friday, we've got an area right along the Florida Straits, the Keys here, and over through the Bahamas. That's what we're going to be talking about for potential coastal storm activity coming up soon. But other than that, notice also in this same time frame, a little bit later, about a week from now, a lot of ensemble members showing some sort of lower pressure values here into the Western Caribbean. We've got very warm sea surface temperatures. It's pretty moist right now. You've got the MJO helping out. So it's something that I think we need to watch very closely. Again, not sounding any alarms yet, but just something absolutely that we'll keep an eye on. All right, that's that potential. Now let's bring things over to this potential coastal storm. And yeah, the first nor'easter type event of the year. Yeah, potentially. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, here's the setup. It's a pretty classic baroclinic, just masterpiece going on here, meaning we've got some cold air next to warm air, and then we're going to get some vorticity to throw that warm air into the cold air, and it's just going to do a positive feedback loop. Here's the cold air source, and oh, you know what? I'm just going to pause real quick. This is exciting. It feels like I'm talking about winter weather. Not quite yet, but oof, gives you that tingly feeling that we're almost there. You folks, if you're a regular channel, you'll know. That's my bread and butter. Love breaking down winter storms here on the channel, especially when they're in the Carolinas. But that doesn't happen very often anymore. Anyway, here's our cold source. We've got high pressure up into the Great Lakes. We've got cold air damming down into the Carolinas. So we've got, it's going to be a pretty chilly couple of days by Thursday and Friday of this week. We're going to have highs stuck in the 60s for many into the foothills of the Alps, highs potentially stuck in the 50s into the mountains, and then 70s down into the Piedmont probably. But yeah, it's going to be nice. As that's happening, we're going to get some upper level energy, which I'll show you in the next map. And you can see all these little low pressures down near Florida trying to develop. By the time we go later into the week, this really gets going. This is Saturday morning. We've got a well-defined signal for a coastal low developing here on the European ensembles. I probably should have mentioned that's what this is. And we've got some stronger members in here. We've got a lot sub 1,000. We've got some 990s. You keep on going in time, and you get to Sunday morning, and we've got some 980s mixing in, even a 970 or two. So this is a pretty strong coastal storm, especially for October standards. If this was wintertime, folks, high pressure to the north, low pressure here, I mean, we'd be talking about blizzard potential, into portions of the Northeast. So hopefully this is a sign of things to come. But unfortunately, because it's fall, we're just talking about wind and rain, which could lead to some power outages and things like that, depending on the track. But you could see it clear as day. There it is. Rides right up the East Coast, then kind of stalls out a little bit around the Outer Banks, the Delmarva and the Chesapeake as high pressure locks it into place. And then, maybe even throws it inland a little bit, which obviously would be a problem. How's this happening? What's going on? Well, I'll show you the vorticity map, and this is really what it comes down to. And I'll caution you, what's going to cause this right now is actually way back here. This is actually from last night. So, this is the analysis, but we'll move it right here. This is about today. We've got a bit of a trough here over the Rockies, and you can see very positively tilted, not overly strong right now, but You go ahead in a time, stays not that exciting, and then a little piece of it cuts off, gets brought down into the flow. We've got some CVA here, or cyclonic vorticity advection, working right over where I told you this stalled out frontal boundary was over Florida, and that's enough of a recipe for them to come together. They combine into one stronger piece of vorticity, then you get another shot of vorticity out of the Great Lakes that dives in, that phases together, and you've just got a ton of spin over the mid-Atlantic, basically, on top of this temperature gradient that could fuel a pretty strong storm. Again, I would not be surprised to see sub 1,000 millibars out of this at some point in its life cycle, and then it becomes stacked and eventually dies off probably early next week. Showed you in the models. Here's the European model. You can see it developing near Florida, gets going. We've got heavy rain, wind by overnight Friday into early Saturday through the Outer Banks, maybe the PD of South Carolina. Keeps going, pulls up the coast, gets sub 990, gets into the 980s, lashes the beaches of Virginia, the Chesapeake, the Delmarva region, even gets up into portions of the mid-Atlantic, and then finally phases out and dies out by early next week. On the European, the GFS, pretty similar here to show you we've got model agreement, gets it going, not quite as strong, and a little bit further north before it moves in more near Jersey, Delaware into Philly, Long Island, and again kind of starts to die out, hits peak offshore, and then weakens as it moves inland. But still, we could see impacts from this. So let's take a look at maybe some wind and rain impacts out of this, what is becoming pretty likely to be a pretty good coastal storm by this weekend. All right, here's your wind forecast. Let's go through it. And you can see we've got low pressure developing, working up the coast. This, I will caution you, is max wind gusts on just a random European model run. So do not take this for gospel. It's going to change, but it gives you an idea of what we could see if the pieces align correctly. And we're talking about tropical storm, borderline hurricane wind gusts into the Outer Banks. Poor houses have been getting just taken out to the ocean out there recently. This could add to that problem. It's been a rough summer there for you folks in the Outer Banks. Luckily, all those houses being abandoned by now anyway, but the point stands, rough winds, and even, further inland, gusting up near 30 miles an hour. You keep going ahead into time. This gets up into the, Chesapeake and the Delmarva. I mean, we've got tropical storm force wind gusts, Virginia Beach, up into coastal Jersey, coastal Maryland and Delaware, even back down towards Elizabeth City, North Carolina, Virginia Beach, and just a big wind bag, it tries to work all the way up into the mid-Atlantic. By Sunday, you've got tropical storm force wind gusts in Philly, Baltimore, New York City, all of Jersey just about. So, yeah, I mean, pretty big impact showing up on the European model, I'd say. And on top of that, the European rainfall, you get 4 or 5 inches of rain on top of those wind gusts. You're going to bring some trees down should it unfold like the European model shows. Obviously, not saying it exactly will, but the potential is there that this could be, pretty high impact event for October standards. And then show you the blended models. Again, a lot to figure out. The good news, most models, not all of them, most of them keep the heaviest axis of rain and thus the heaviest axis of wind out to sea right now. But still, the Outer Banks, I think you're in line for this. We'll see what happens. Again, a lot of the models kind of try to throw this back inland wherever that happens and wherever this system is at in its life cycle. If it's still strengthening at that point, could be a problem. I'll just show you one more thing. I'll pull up on the fly here. Wind gusts on the blended models. What does it show? First time looking at this myself. Is it going to even go out far enough? Yeah, it is. And you can see, not nearly as bad as what the European shows, but you can see the storm system showing up there. And even on the blend right now, having at least breezy conditions at the least. So a lot to figure out here. We'll see what ends up happening. But one to keep an eye on if you're anywhere from the Carolinas up into the Northeast. Yeah, it could be a nice little nor'easter here for October, really bringing the fall vibes, right? So we'll keep on tracking that for you, but obviously could bring impacts as well. All right, that's all I got for you on this super duper Monday out there. A couple things ahead of time, just planning wise this week, I'll throw out there. Obviously, normal stuff here today because the video's out. Tomorrow should be normal with a morning video. Wednesday should be normal with a morning video. I'm going to try to get a Thursday morning video, especially if this looks the way it does, but I'll be on fall break Thursday and Friday, so I'm going to head home back to the upstate to see family for those 2 days. So again, if it's looking pretty busy, I'll at least wait till Thursday morning, get a video out, then head home, and then I'll just miss Friday and be back Saturday. But so that's a little update on the week ahead. All right, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.